The final vestige of the White Sox first rebuild has been traded. Luis Robert Jr. is now a New York Met. Join for our reaction here on the CHGO White Sox podcast, emergency podcast. To you live from my home because it's 11 o'clock. We're doing an emergency podcast here on CHGO because that's what we do. Welcome in. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, my producer, Stephen Nicholas, who never seems to catch a break. We are coming to you live at 10:40 on January 20th. And earlier today when I did a show talking about Everson Pereira and Munetaka Murakami and Jared Kelnick and bashing Bob Nightingale, and I forget even the main topic. Oh, it's Michael Conforto. I didn't think we'd be talking to you about this. I felt a shift in Robert's trade candidacy once the Tucker deal was sealed. And it seemed that once the Yankees started to kick around Robert, that seemed like a backup plan for Bellinger. So if it was a backup plan for the Yankees, well, the Mets were also going after Bellinger. So it might seem a little bit more clear that Cody Bellinger is probably a Yankee with this move. And now Luis Robert Jr. is a New York Met. This is from Jeff Passan. The New York Mets get Luis Robert Jr. The White Sox get Luisangel Acuña and Truman Pauley. Luisangel Acuña is the brother of Ronald Acuña Jr. So there is some family fun there. He is nowhere near the athlete and size that his brother is. Ronald Acuña is a small superstar at around 6 feet, 6'1". Luisangel Acuña Jr. or Luisangel Acuña is 5'8", 181. He's mostly an up the diamond guy. It's a trade that is multi-layered. A player that was promised to be the next Cuban Mike Trout. I understand why a lot of people are frustrated and upset right now that this is the return. But in all reality, when you look at this entire situation, Luis Robert Jr. has not been healthy enough to deliver on what was the promised potential. And while this may sting as fans, I know it stings. I wanted them to keep him for opening day. I thought they could build up his value in the first couple of months. This is exactly what they were waiting for. I am not surprised that this is the deal. I'm honestly a little shocked that the Mets are taking on this contract in full. When you were hearing the Reds talk about being super close to a deal in late December, it was talks of the Reds taking on, or the White Sox taking on $10 million. So now the White Sox don't have to pay Luis Robert Jr. anything. He could just go to the Mets and they get prospects on top of it. I understand a lot of people are saying that this is selling low, that a decent amount of people are frustrated that this was a go away trade. You're right. They didn't really have a future with Luis Robert Jr. They did not see a route to where even if he turned into Cuban Mike Trout and turned into a superstar, they knew that they weren't going to be able to afford him. So if you have frustrations over Jerry Reinsdorf and his, inability to spend money, I completely understand. Because again, we all saw the superstar potential. I will not tell you that you shouldn't believe in Luis Robert Jr. and his potential. I was there watching the Game 3 home run in the Oakland Coliseum off of Mike Fiers. I took an exact pair of headset like this and I spiked it to the ground and this thing completely broke off. I was there with you. I was there with your excitement. But at the end of the day, what was promised was never delivered. And while it does suck to be in this moment, to lose an extremely talented player, this is exactly what Chris Getz was waiting for. I don't understand why you would rather prefer to first baseman in return. Steven, what are you flashing on the screen right now? They have Munetaka Murakami. They don't need a first baseman. This is exactly, though, what Chris Getz was looking for. We can flash the now 26 6-man roster to show you currently where they sit. This was a team that was approaching $90 million for a payroll. And now with Luis Robert Jr.'s $20 million gone, they sit at $73.3 million. That's to my best guess. I could be wrong on that, but I would assume that their current payroll is $73.3 million. Corey in the chat also sharing that the Mets will assume the entire $20 million of Robert's contract. It is big. It's not big because you're not going to see that $20 million on the field. Right. And maybe they're lucky. Maybe they take that $20 million and buy out Benintendi. Like, great. There we go. Now we free up more roster options. It does clear a spot for the future, but right now that future isn't clear. And a lot of people are wondering, what are you going to do in center field? It could be Luisangel Acuña. Luisangel Acuña was a decently rated by StatCast second baseman in his first year. That was last year, I think the prior year. At second base, but then last year, 2025, he bounced around, played shortstop, played second base, played left, and then played center field, and really didn't grade out well in any of those positions. I think what they like is his speed. They like his athleticism. So if you are looking at a center fielder of either Everson Pereira, Luisangel Acuña Jr., I don't know why I keep adding Junior. That's just Ronald's last name. I don't think there's another Luis. I don't think his father's Luisangel. I think his father's probably Ronald Sr. That probably makes a lot more sense. But Acuña could be in a mix for that center field position. Truman Pauley was the other addition to this trade. Pauley is a right-hander, 6'2", 200 pounds. He was a 12th round pick in just the 2025 MLB draft. He's from Harvard, Massachusetts. Truman Pauley kind of sounds like a Harvard name. All right. Fits the bill there. Steven, if you want to flash his A performance, this is from @TJ Stats. And this is from his A ball run in 4 1/3 innings. There's not much to really take away from this. This is an extremely young player that is barely pitched professionally. It's again 4 1/3 innings pitched. You really shouldn't take away anything from these stats. What I'm trying to show you is what we can somewhat take away from the 73 pitches he threw in A ball. From that four-seamer, you could see sits around 93. That doesn't sound like typical, high velocity four-seam stuff. But what you want to look at is that IVB number at 18.9. You can see the TJ Stuff Plus is 106, and it's because he gets so much induced vertical break. They do probably like that fastball. That's a very, very good fastball. And then Steven was bringing up that he thinks he has a gyro ball, looking at the pitch breaks and looking at the 23 cutters.
So it's a gyro slider. That's how it's being termed.
It looks like a gyro cutter because if you look at like what a gyro means on that pitch break, a category right dead middle, you could see it's kind of a crosshair. You could see that purple, maybe even more of an eggplant color, is all on that like zero line. So that means that there's no horizontal break, and that's really what defines a gyro ball, is that it doesn't really break arm side or glove side. So that slider does have a ton of glove side movement. So I would assume that it's more of a gyro cutter, and maybe they're calling it a slider because again, it's typically gyro sliders, and maybe they're saying that slider's more of a sweeper with the amount of horizontal break it gets. But yeah, I don't know enough about Truman Pauley, but it's interesting. Like again, that four-seam fastball looks interesting. The gyro cutter or slider, whatever it is, it does look interesting, but he's so far away, and it really is based on what Acuña does to determine on whether this is a good or not trade, right? And from a fan perspective, it's likely just a bad trade. Like I know that Luis Robert Jr. is likely the most talented player in this trade, and the White Sox are trading him away. So it doesn't sit well with me. As a guy that was promised Cuban Mike Trout, I'm here. What is his final WAR number as a Chicago White Sox? Luis Robert Jr. settles with his career with a total of 15.8 WAR. A lifetime, and that's from 2020 to 2025 in 6 years. It's not bad, but again, it's not superstar level. I mean, Mike Trout probably had 2 seasons where he put up 15 WAR. Just looking all-time White Sox, where he might rank in WAR. Give me a second. But this wasn't a player that ever delivered. This was a player that didn't also have the opportunities that seemed to be presented to him. The players that were brought in with him, Moncada and Eloy, just like Luis Robert Jr., couldn't stay healthy. And they had that one moment in 2021 and they were left at the doorstep. And I know that that's why a lot of Bears fans are kind of freaking out right now because, hey, maybe that was the Bears' only moment. I have a little bit more faith that Caleb Williams will be able to get you through the maybe tougher years where Luis Robert Jr. wasn't able to get you through the tough years. Again, he was on the worst baseball team of all time in 2024 with 121 losses. So the White Sox folding their cards on this, it makes sense. I hate to say it, and I hate to say that, Chris Getz is right, but this is what Chris Getz was waiting for. Chris Getz has done a very good job of being patient and letting the market set up to what he wants it to be. Hasn't always paid off. The Dylan Cease trade was bad. The Eric Fetty trade was fine. The Garrett Crochet trade was decent. But then again, when you're looking at 3 pitchers in 2025 that have pitched over 200 innings, Garrett Crochet is one of them. I'd like 25-year-old Garrett Crochet on my team. That sounds nice. It's just a really disgusting situation to be in if you're a White Sox fan, because you, of course, want the most talent on your team. You want the best baseball team possible. And you are currently Andy Dufresne halfway through that tunnel of crap, and you are on your hands and knees and arms and knees crawling through, and you hope at some point you'll see daylight soon. Because, again, you can't have Robert do exactly what happened in, 24? Where he looks great in the first 8 games. He goes to Kaufman, hits a double into the left center gap, and then pulls up around the first baseline, right? Or you can't have last season where I'm drooling over him in spring training. I'm ready to say he's Luis Robert Jr. of 2023, and he still shows a decent amount of athleticism throughout 2025, but it doesn't start really settling in until July. And then what happens? Luis Robert Jr. gets hurt. So, it's not a person that you could have invested in. Even if he goes out and has a great 2026, they're not signing him long term. So Getz at least should be credited for giving himself the ability to see this market out. And the fact that he was able to really go from the Mets not being interested, and I think around November, they said they needed the White Sox to take on money. Well, Chris Getz knows that Steve Cohen wallet is practically endless. They didn't get who they needed this year. They're in panic mode, and that played for the White Sox card. I don't know if Luisangel Acuña is going to be decent. Major League Baseball ranked him as the 71st prospect in 2023. They ranked him as the 66th prospect in 2024. Baseball Prospectus had him as the 76th prospect pre-2024. He's been, a young player in Major League Baseball in 109 games, a 248 average, 300 on base percentage, 341 slugging percentage. Not great, but he's also only 23. It's a 5-year difference between him and the regular Major League Baseball age gap. And then when you look at what he's done in the past Venezuelan leagues, I know that that's tough. I know that we were relying on a lot of Lenin Sosa Venezuelan Winter League stats, but you look at his 30 games in 2024, 2025, 337, 419, 495. Then you look at 2025, 2026, 39 games, 282 average, 397 on base percentage, but his slugging percentage went up to 542. His OPS was about 20 points higher. It's not a bad athlete to take a gamble on. And we were talking earlier, looking at James Fegan's article from SoxMachine.com, it's, Ryan Fuller talking about up the middle athletes that can provide high bat speed, that can provide speed, that can provide defense. Acuña is this. So if it doesn't sit well with you, I'm not going to say, you have to believe in Luisangel Acuña Jr., the crab father, saying, I don't believe in Acuña, sue me. Bob had 1 more year attached, no strings attached. If he gets hurt, he gets hurt. We'll probably get the same return. Other part is he's the last part of a failed rebuild. Again, we let off with that. It is a sore taste because, again, it's just a player that really sums up the entirety of that rebuild. Is you just wish that there was more. There felt like there was so much juice to squeeze from that, and you don't end up being able to squeeze that. But at least to the point about not believing in Acuña, that's fine. I'm not saying you can believe in Luisangel Acuña. He has his brother that's really successful, but that's no guarantee. He seems like a decent athlete in his own right, but he's also fairly minute. The other thing, though, is, they did have 1 more year in the player option, as you bring up, Crab Father. And if he gets hurt, he gets hurt. Well, as a White Sox podcaster for the past 3 years, I do feel like I have some expert analysis, and typically we don't have 232 people in here. There was so much just animosity towards him. If he got hurt again, I could not stand that debate. Done with it. Like, it was all about potential, potential, potential. There's a TikTok video where you could just scroll this guy's feed, and all of the first words in every single video is if, right? It's just if. They got the deal that they wanted. I'm not mad at Chris Getz. You know what? Like, if it was a Reds trade, I think that they're probably getting a similar prospect and sending 10 million. So at the end of the day, if we're trying to have Chris Getz be a decent GM, I think he understood the market. I think he played the market well. And at the end of the day, I think it's a fine trade. Like, I don't think I'm going to give it a B grade. I don't think I can even give this a grade. It just sucks. The trade itself doesn't suck, but the situation, the moment, absolutely sucks. We're getting texts live from Jake Flanagan, who apparently has been the biggest Luisangel Acuña fan out there. He did let me know that he is the younger brother of Ronald Acuña Jr., which is good. Thank you, Jake. He did have 4 home runs in one game down in the Venezuelan league for Lara, the Cardenales de Lara. He finished the game with 4 for 6 with a walk, 7 RBIs, 6 runs scored as they ran to a 21-9 victory. And then the Syracuse Mets AAA manager on July 31st, courtesy of the Man-Child show, and he's still typing. So thank you, Jake, for that. I think that, you know, Acuña's fine. Mets fans on Twitter from Shy Sox Anthony seem upset about Acuña leaving. Like, he's 23, he's young. You know, they've seen what his brother can do. I don't know if I'm really buying into this being the next big thing. I don't know why Jake texted me this about worth playing on Acuña and didn't text me the thing. Steven, should we wait to get Jake in real life on the podcast?
No, I'll fill some of the time while we figure out what is the rest of that. I was going to ask you, you know, Luis Robert Jr. was supposed to be the crown jewel of this rebuild. And, you know, we had a couple glimpses. We had MVP caliber season on, albeit not the best team, the team that didn't really reach the results that we were looking for. But did the White Sox fail Luis Robert Jr., or did he fail to reach his expectations? Because, like, you and I were having this conversation earlier today, all these terrible White Sox draft pick busts that just did not work out. And then we started going into some of the international free agent signings, and this one seemed like it was a can't miss. And outside of a couple good years, it missed.
I think it's mostly on the organization. I think that this is a player that consistently was put through trade requests, trade rumors, you know, kind of dragged for not going through the injuries and stuff. Really wanted to prove himself in 2023 and was able to do that. 2024 was the worst season in Major League history. I don't think the White Sox did enough for Luis Robert Jr. to surround him with enough talent, prepare him for the transition from Cuba to the U.S. I really do think that it's the White Sox failing him, because, again, you look at the player, and I think it's probably typical of, like, buying a Lamborghini or a Porsche, right? Like, it's not the car's problem. It's if you're driving at 100 miles per hour every single day and not getting the oil change, right? Like, I don't think that they were taking the right prep and care with this player. So when you hear these absurd stories of maybe an absurd diet of him putting mayonnaise on a Krispy Kreme donut, it's like, well, you know, maybe that is a player that doesn't have, like, a sense of the food pyramid, a sense of, you know, what should be going into a Lamborghini, right? It's not the Lamborghini's job to take care of the Lamborghini. So I think it's the Sox failing Robert at the end of the day. Jake sent something in Slack. I don't know if we necessarily.
I just messaged him back. I asked if he could make that an MP4 instead of a dot movie, but yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this trade, and, you know, Luis Robert's dealt with a lot of injuries as of late. And I know there's a lot of people that are saying, yeah, they didn't get enough for Luis Robert because they're remembering the MVP caliber season. But at the same time, what if we get another injured season? You're getting even less. So at least, you know, right, the White Sox took a couple dart throws here, and they're hoping they hit a bullseye. But I think you're more likely to hit on Luisangel, Acuña, or I don't know, maybe even Truman Pauley, a guy
Well,
who I'd never heard prior to today, than gambling on Luis Robert
it,
being an MVP caliber player again, or even just healthy.
yeah, it keeps the trade tree going. It keeps your organization turning over and trying to get new talent. And that's the thing again that we talked about on the show, that Ryan Fuller likes, that Chris Getz is looking for athletic players that can play up the middle. That is Angel Acuna Jr. And now they have Angel Acuna Jr. for, I would assume, 5 years of control. If he's played, 2 partial seasons, I assume that they have probably about 5 years left of control. So, excluding Pauley, who might never make it to the majors, Acuna can be a part of the 2026 team. Absolutely. And then I think Sam mentioned again, like, I thought we needed Luis Robert Jr. in center field. They kind of do. Like, I mean, if you want to flash the 26-man roster, you could see that Benintendi currently mans left field. I think that he'll likely be the DH at this point. So you could probably switch him out with Teal. But again, the whole issue is you want Caro and Teal playing. So at some point, you'd think Benintendi would have to be in left field. But Benny in left field. Center field, they put Everson Pereira, the player that they just acquired from the Rays this offseason. Right field, Jared Kelnick, the minor league invite, who I do think that they're going to make or somehow get on the team this year. Maybe he does start in Charlotte, but I think Kelnick will be a part of the rotation.
They've done a lot of that. The former top prospects that they try to, get a reinvigorated version of, hoping that you hit a home run on those.
Yeah, and again, it's up the middle athletes. Like, again, like they really love his tinkering with his batting stance, his thoughtfulness with his batting stance, his thoughtfulness at the plate, and like you look at the bat speed, you look at how he's able to damage the ball, and like the athlete part is there. He just hasn't had consistency. It's more about unlocking consistency. You could also see in that utility there, Brooks Baldwin, Luisangel Acuna Jr. Baldwin, I don't know if he's ready for center field, but he has the ability to play every single position. Acuna, he's mainly been up the middle at shortstop and second base, but he does have a ton of speed, so maybe he can play center field. I don't really love 5'8" center fielders, though. Like, we saw Dominic Fletcher be out there, and it's just such a small body that needs to cover such range. And it does seem like, again, that was part of what Luis Robert Jr. made seem so effortless out there, was, he could cover center field in like 3 steps, where Acuna Jr. is going to be running his tail off in center field. Pereira's a bigger body, so maybe Pereira is a guy that they go with. But yeah, I mean, they need a center fielder. It's not Michael Conforto, so I don't know who they're going with.
Well, we're going to be hearing a lot of this in the coming days, and it's going to be a big talking point. Does this kind of accelerate the call up for Braden Montgomery now?
I know, because I mean, there's so many guys right now that they can possibly plug into the outfield. So I don't think that Montgomery is in a situation where Colson was last year, where Colson had Jacob Amaya to beat out, and he didn't beat him out because his back didn't allow him to play off spring training, where Montgomery, Braden, could have a fantastic spring training, and they could still say, we want to see you come July. Maybe they'd be a little bit more aggressive, because if he wins Rookie of the Year, they get draft pick bonuses, but they could also be looking at next year as that possibility. I don't think they want to rush Braden, because he is kind of like, I mean, I know Bonhomer is also a really high up there, but at least bat wise, like, Carlson's more lauded for his defense. Foskey's like fairly far out. Bonhomer and Montgomery seem like the surest bats that will be on the White Sox in the next coming years. So I don't know if you want to really, I don't know if you want to mess with that. I don't know if you want to go away from that. So I would say Montgomery starts in Birmingham.
Well, let me ask you this as I continue peppering you with questions. Is this going to be more like Eloy leaving the White Sox and he just continues to not, be up to expectations? Or is it going to be more like Andrew Vaughn leaving and he's just going to start bashing the baseball like we used to see?
I don't know, man. I mean, you could even look at Moncada with the Angels this year, and it was like strictly the same Moncada. Like, I mean, you could talk yourself into Moncada being good the next year. It's just, can he stay healthy? I mean, we might see Luis Robert Jr. hit 10 home runs in the month of April, and then he's out for 2 months.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Maybe he is fantastic on a postseason platform, and that's all that matters. I mean, you could rewrite your entire story in the postseason. So I think that there's a high chance that Luis Robert Jr. looks very, very good in a Mets uniform. I also think that it's a high chance that the Mets are made with devil magic and Citi Field collapses into the Staten Island River or whatever. I really think that the Mets, with their current amalgamation of Marcus Semien at second base, Lindor at shortstop, Bichette, who's never played third base, Jorge Polanco at first base. I mean, if all things go wrong, maybe Luis Robert Jr. is picking up a first baseman's glove because he's just taller than Jorge Polanco.
But he'd definitely be like one of the fastest first basemen out there.
Yeah, I don't think that's probably last case scenario. But I think that I think that it's likely Luis Robert Jr. looks really good. I don't know if he has his career year. I don't know if he tops 2023, but with what you saw defensively and speed-wise on the base pass, along with the spurts that he showed in late August, if that team is locked into a playoff run, I think Luis Robert Jr. looks really good. If they maybe miss the mark and there's a lot of drama in New York, maybe that's a player that gets drowned a little bit. Johnny Dever asking in the chat, record prediction. My record prediction pre-Robert trade was 70 to 76, so I'd probably take on the lower end of that. Vegas projections were around 68.5, and now with Robert being gone, I don't know if that necessarily changes it. I mean, it was a player last year that was 1.5 WAR, or 1.2 WAR. Like it wasn't. It's not anything crazy. I mean, you can possibly cover that missed WAR. So I would say probably 68 to 72. I think that's a fair window there. I could see the pitching bringing it down to 66 to 70, but I think they avoid 100 losses. So, yeah, I mean,
I'm going to go
again, at the end of the day, like,
we're going to go right there.
There you go. Yeah. It depends on how the pitching forms. I really think that, because, I mean, you're going to get power from Montgomery. You're going to get power from Murakami. You're likely going to get some pop from Teal. Carroll was decent enough where he was able to drive in runs. What can they unlock? Like, can they find a new superstar in either Angel Acuña Jr., Kelnick, Pereira? I know there's some younger players as well. I mean, does Murakami just become that star?
They hope to get one in the draft as well, obviously.
Right. And Chalowski is extremely advanced to where Chalowski could be on the 2027 team or the 2026 team. Mm-hmm. Well, no, this is 2026.
We're here. We did that.
So he'd be on the 2027
team. I think that strikes another factor too. Like you shut some payroll. That's what December was it 1st, 2026 is when there could be a strike. So I mean, it's from the business perspective, it's not a bad move for the White Sox getting some of that money off the books.
Well, right, and two, I mean, they picked up the option with the idea that they were either going to trade him or be, ready to play him on opening day. And I really do believe that if the Mets weren't willing to take on all of the salary, he'd be a Chicago White Sox. And I think that this really, it would have been egregious for Chris Getz to say no. Like, Chris Getz was like, you need to take on all of our prospects and you need to give us a top 10 prospect plus. And the Mets were like, okay. The Mets finally, agreed to the terms. So I think it's, again, a fair reaction if people are frustrated with this trade. But at the end of the day, like, you just need to be frustrated with Jerry Reinsdorf and Rick Hahn and Ken Williams for failing that first rebuild. I mean, that's exactly who you should be mad at right now. When you look at that Mike Fiers homer, game 3, like, the reason that you weren't able to cash in was because of their inability to go fully for it. They never crossed a luxury tax threshold at all in 2021, 2022. They got, up to 185, but the threshold's 212. They played a ton into putting money into the bullpen, but their batters were not strong enough. I mean, they relied on AJ Pollock, and then they went out and signed my guy, Andrew Benintendi, for left field. There hasn't been a consistent right fielder since Jermaine Dye in 2009. So I really do think that this is Rick Hahn at the end of the day. Like, if you're looking for somebody to be pissed off about, have it be Rick Hahn. And I think Fat Hipster, a consistent guy, when there's either 20 people in the chat or 257, you're always going to see Fat Hipster in there. And he says, very mixed feelings about this trade. I do too. I think Chris Getz did exactly what he needed to do. And I also feel exactly with you that this is the guy that has so much potential, and I could have watched him play for 80 more games and see what they've done at the deadline. But that's not the case, and I don't hate the trade. Do we have this MP4 of this Syracuse
Oh, did that get
manager?
sent?
I have no idea. I've
I'm
literally just been
downloading it
talking
right
to him.
now. Here we go. You were stalling for me. I didn't even realize it. My bad.
Is
Um,
this guy? So this is the Syracuse manager, the
AAA
Syracuse Mets
Syracuse.
AAA manager, and I believe his name is Dick Scott. Is that
All right.
true?
It's uploading. I mean, I don't know the guy, but
Oh, you're good. No,
shout out to Jake for sending this time. He's doing
Yeah,
his research, you know.
he is, and we're gonna hear from current AAA manager of the Syracuse Mets, Dick Scott, Richard Edward Scott. What a name!
I am a little concerned. The last time he was this excited about somebody was Ruben Hippolyte, and that draft. Sorry, Jake, for putting that out there, but that draft pick didn't work out too well for the Bears.
Hey, Justin Fields' is biggest fan.
Dick Scott is ready if you want to play it.
All right, here's Dick Scott on Luisangel Acuña Jr., the Syracuse AAA manager, talking about the newest White Sox, courtesy of the Manchild Show.
Let me ask you about another guy that came down briefly. He's a real weapon. I'm still trying to figure out, and I'd love for you to help answer this question about what he is as a major league player, and that's Luisangel Acuña. I mean, there's no question he's a weapon at the major league level. Do you see him, Dick, inevitably being an everyday player at the major league level based on what you've seen of him in the minors?
I think he can be. And the difficulty for him right now is we have this guy playing shortstop for us that's pretty good named Lindor. And
Lindor.
He's got a long contract, and he performs every year. So Luis is a very, very good defender. Like, this guy can really catch the ball. Like, I'm amazed at some of the stuff some of the plays he makes. Being a former middle infielder, this guy covers ground. He's got a very accurate arm. He's got a strong arm. He knows when to throw hard, when he has time. For a young guy, last year I was like, man, this guy's really, really good. He's got speed. He can steal bases. I think there's definitely a place where he could go and play every day at the major leagues. The bat's got to come a little bit stronger than it is right now. But it's difficult. Part of the reason they sent him down here was just so he could play every day and get some at-bats. Because when you're playing and you're getting maybe 4 at-bats a week against major league hitting, it's hard to stay sharp. It's really hard. So that's probably the reason he came down.
So, Dick, are you seeing a young Dick Scott out there when you see Acuña? Is that what's happening there?
I wish. If that was the case, I wouldn't be talking to you guys and being the manager in Syracuse. I'd be retired somewhere playing golf. That's probably what I'd be doing.
Well, that
tired playing golf. That sounds great. Yeah.
Right? Doesn't sound too bad if you were a great Major League Baseball player and could go play golf for the rest of the year. All right. I think that this is going to wrap it up for the most part. It's extremely frustrating that this is, again, the case and what had to happen with Luis Robert Jr. I wish we were doing a World Series parade reaction, right? With Luis Robert Jr. lifting.
I have to wait a little bit on that one. Yeah.
But it's frustrating. Drake asked, how do we not get another outfielder? I think that this could be an outfielder. I mean, I'm not sure exactly where he'll play. Maybe it is second base. Maybe he usurps Chase Mydroth, but I can easily see them playing Acuña in the outfield. I mean, as you hear Dick Scott say there, I mean, he's an athlete. And at the end of the day, athletes make it in Major League Baseball. The best of the best make it to Major League Baseball, whether it's Mookie Betts moving from second base to left field to shortstop. Like, these guys, the guys that can play shortstop, that are athletic enough to play shortstop, can make those moves around the diamond. So I don't know what exactly Acuña Jr.'s, future is going to look like, but he's interesting. And
does him being 5'8" sway you away from him playing the outfield at all? Do you put any weight on that?
What was that?
Does him being 5'8", does that make you sway away from the outfield and maybe think more infield or second base type?
I would think more corner than anything. Again, like just thinking of Dominic Fletcher in the outfield, again, like he was able to play right field really, 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 really well. And then when he moved over to center field, he just wasn't able to cover the range. So I don't know if he'll be able to cover the range at 5'8". He is extremely speedy, but I'm not really sure. Final thing. This is from Not That Bobby Orr over at Baseball Prospectus. 2024, Luisangel Acuña Jr., 60% damage per batted ball event, 60th percentile, in Major League Baseball per damage per batted ball event. Last year it was 12, so inconsistent with the amount of damage that he was putting on. In 2024, 90th in 82nd in 90th percentile exit velocity. Last year, 56th percentile. His max exit velocity, though, was 56% compared to 52% this year. So, like, I do still think that top end velocity is there. It's just more about finding consistency with this player. And again, he's 23 years old. So we'll have to figure out how he's able to grow and develop. But hey, they say do 15 minutes on Luis Robert Jr. and we're here at 35 minutes. So
look at us.
That's the CHGO difference for you.
And that's what we do. Anytime there's breaking news like this, we've got it for you. And you know, if this is your type of thing, and I know it is because there's 258 of you watching at 11:20 p.m. for Luis Robert sadly being traded, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We got you on Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, White Sox, Cubs, whatever you need, we got it.
Yeah, if the Bulls beat the Clippers 173-104, we have a post game for you. I think that was the final score, but I know you weren't watching the Bulls game.
Nope.
Nope. That's going to do it for the CHGO White Sox podcast. That's why we pay Matt Packett and Big Dave the big bucks to watch Bulls basketball. We will have a show for you tomorrow at 4:30. We will talk more about Luisangel Acuña Jr. And our guy, I was going to call him Truman Pauley. It's the Truman Show here on the South Side. Luis Robert Jr. is no longer a White Sox. If you have any thoughts, hit me up on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. If you're a diehard, jump in that Discord and let me know your thoughts. We'll be reacting tomorrow at 4:30. We'll talk to you then. Goodbye.
We all silly like the mayor.